Hello, welcome to Capital Sensei. Today, we're gonna dissect a book that for many completely rewired their understanding of work, money, and life itself. We're talking about The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. We'll explore his concept of the new rich who prioritize time and mobility over sheer wealth. We'll break down his famous DEAL framework: definition, elimination, automation, and liberation, which is the step-by-step method for escaping the 9-to-5 grind. This is about designing a life, not just making a living. As we go through these ideas, you'll likely have questions or see connections to your own life. Whenever we can, we answer questions in the comments. So please, feel free to share your thoughts, your doubts, and even your own stories about trying to work smarter, not harder. It creates a community where we can all learn from each other's experiences. All right, let's set the scene. The year is 2007. The idea of remote work is a fantasy for most people. The standard path in life is crystal clear. You go to school, you get a good job, you work for 40 or 50 years, save diligently into a retirement account, and then, maybe, at age 65, you get to enjoy your life. Tim Ferriss saw this deferred life plan, as he calls it, and asked a radical question. Why wait? Why sacrifice the present for a future that isn't guaranteed? From an economist's perspective, this traditional plan is a massive, undiversified bet. You're betting your entire life portfolio on a single distant outcome: that you'll be healthy, energetic, and still have the same desires in your golden years. Ferriss proposed a different model, one he called lifestyle design. Instead of a single massive retirement at the end, you sprinkle mini retirements throughout your life. It's about distributing your periods of leisure and adventure, rather than saving them all up. To understand how this is possible, we first need to understand his concept of the new rich. This isn't about being a millionaire. Forget the images of yachts and mansions. The new rich are defined by something far more valuable: freedom. Specifically, freedom of time and freedom of location. They are the people who have unbound their income from their time and physical presence. They've cracked the code on how to make money without being chained to a desk. Think about it in terms of income. We usually measure wealth in absolute terms. How many dollars are in your bank account? The new rich focus on relative income. What matters isn't just how much you make, but how you make it. Let's imagine a corporate lawyer in New York City who earns $500,000 a year. Sounds amazing, right? But she works 80 hours a week, is constantly stressed, and can't take more than a week of vacation at a time. Her effective hourly wage is high, but her freedom is practically zero. Now compare her to a person who built a small online business selling a niche product. This person earns only $100,000 a year, but they work just 10 hours a week to maintain the business. And they can do it from anywhere with an internet connection: a cafe in Paris, a beach bungalow in Thailand, or their hometown. Who is truly wealthier? The lawyer has more absolute income, but the online entrepreneur has infinitely more relative income, more freedom, and more control over their life. That's the essence of being a member of the new rich. So, how do you join the ranks of the new rich? Ferriss provides a roadmap, a 4-step process he calls DEAL. It's an acronym for definition, elimination, automation, and liberation. This is the engine of the whole system. Let's break down each component one by one, because this is where the theory turns into action. The first step, D, is for definition. Before you can change your life, you have to define what you actually want. And more importantly, you have to confront what's holding you back. For most people, the biggest obstacle is fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of failure, fear of what other people will think. Ferriss argues that most of our fears are undefined and overblown. He suggests an exercise called fear setting, which is like a worst-case scenario analysis for your life. You ask yourself, what's the absolute worst that could happen if I pursue this goal? Say, quitting your job to start a business. Maybe the worst case is the business fails, you burn through your savings, and you have to get another job. Then you ask, what could I do to prevent that from happening? You could save up an emergency fund, start the business as a side hustle first. And finally, you ask, if the worst case scenario does happen, what would I do to get back on my feet? You'd update your resume, call your network, and find a new job. Usually, you realize the permanent damage is minimal and the fear was just a monster in the closet. Once you've tamed your fears, you define your new reality. This is done through a process called dreamlining. It's much more practical than just daydreaming. You take your vague desires, like, I want to travel, and make them concrete and actionable. You list things you want to have, be, and do within the next 6 or 12 months. For each one, you calculate the actual monthly cost. You want to learn Japanese in Tokyo for 3 months? Great! Research the cost of a flight, an apartment, a language school, and daily expenses. Suddenly, a giant, intimidating dream becomes a tangible number. You might find that living your dream life doesn't require millions of dollars. Maybe it just requires a target monthly income of, say, $5,000. This transforms the goal from get rich to generate $5,000 of monthly automated income. That is a much more solvable problem. Definition is about replacing vague wishes with a clear, calculated blueprint. The second step in the deal framework is E for elimination. This is where you get ruthless about how you spend your time and attention. Ferriss introduces 2 powerful principles here that, as an economist, I find incredibly elegant. The first is the Pareto Principle, also known as the 80-20 rule. This principle states that for many events, roughly 80% of the effects come from 20% of the causes. In a business context, this might mean that 80% of your profits come from 20% of your customers, or that 80% of your complaints come from a different 20% of customers. The logical move is to focus your energy on the high-profit customers and potentially fire the high-maintenance, low-profit ones. This principle applies to everything. 80% of your results at work probably come from 20% of your tasks. Your job is to identify that critical 20% and focus exclusively on it. What are the few tasks that generate the most value for your company or your clients? Do those. What about the other 80% of tasks? The busy work, the endless meetings, the low-impact reports. Eliminate them, delegate them, or minimize the time you spend on them. This is about surgical precision with your time, not brute force. The second principle of elimination is Parkinson's law, which famously states that work expands so as to fill the time available for its completion. If you give yourself a week to complete a project that could be done in 2 days, you will subconsciously fill that week with stress and minor tasks to make it feel like a week's worth of work. It's human nature. We've all experienced this in school, right? You have a month to write a paper, and you spend the first 3 weeks and 6 days researching and thinking. Then write the entire thing in a caffeine-fueled panic the night before it's due. Ferriss says we should use Parkinson's law to our advantage. Instead of giving yourself more time, give yourself less. Set impossibly short deadlines. If you have a task, ask yourself, if I had a gun to my head and had to finish this in 2 hours, what would I do? You would immediately drop all non-essential activities. You'd focus only on the critical path. By imposing tight constraints, you force yourself to be ruthlessly efficient. A key part of elimination is also adopting what Ferriss calls a low-information diet. This doesn't mean being uninformed. It means being selective. In our modern world, attention is our most valuable and scarce resource. We are constantly bombarded by news alerts, social media feeds, and emails that provide little real value and consume vast amounts of our mental energy. It's like eating junk food all day. You feel full, but you're not nourished. A low-information diet means consciously cutting out the noise. Stop mindlessly scrolling through news feeds. Check email only once or twice a day at set times. Have an ignorance is bliss policy for irrelevant office gossip and pointless media debates. Instead, focus on consuming information that is directly useful for your goals and your life. And do it at a specific time you set aside. This frees up an incredible amount of mental bandwidth. Now we arrive at the third letter, A, for automation. This is the real magic of the 4-hour workweek. Elimination frees up your time, but automation builds a system that generates income for you, detaching your earnings from the hours you work. The goal here is to create what Ferriss calls a muse, a business that is designed from the ground up to run on autopilot. This is about building an asset that produces cash flow, much like an investor buys a dividend stock or a rental property. How do you build a muse? The process starts with picking a niche market. You don't want to compete with Amazon or Walmart. You want to find a small, defined group of people with a specific problem or passion. Think long-tail keywords. Instead of selling shoes, you might target vegan hiking boots for women with wide feet. The more specific the niche, the easier it is to become the #1 provider and the less competition you'll face. Once you have your niche, you need a product. Ferriss strongly advocates for information products or products that can be drop-shipped. An information product, like an ebook, an online course, or a video tutorial series, is ideal because once you create it, you can sell it an infinite number of times with zero marginal cost. The cost to produce one copy is the same as the cost to produce 10,000 copies. The economics are beautiful. Dropshipping is another model. This is where you sell a physical product, but you never actually touch the inventory. A customer places an order on your website. That order is automatically forwarded to a manufacturer or wholesaler who then ships the product directly to the customer. You are simply the middleman, the marketer. You handle the branding and the sales. Someone else handles the manufacturing, warehousing, and shipping. This eliminates huge amounts of cost and complexity. The key to a successful muse is automating every single step. You use targeted online ads, perhaps on Facebook or Google, to drive traffic to a simple website. The website's sales copy does the selling. The payment processing is handled automatically. If it's an info product, the delivery is an automated email with a download link. If it's drop-shipped, the order is automatically sent to the supplier. Customer service questions are directed to a frequently asked questions page. And for anything more complex, you can use a virtual assistant. This brings us to the broader concept of outsourcing. Automation isn't just about technology. It's also about leveraging other people's time. Ferriss is a huge proponent of using virtual assistants, or VAs. These are remote workers, often from countries with a lower cost of living, like the Philippines or India, who can handle a vast array of tasks for a fraction of what it would cost to hire someone locally. Think of it as labor arbitrage, a fundamental economic concept. To do this effectively, you first need to calculate your own effective hourly rate. Let's say your time is worth $100 an hour. Any task that you can pay someone else to do for less than $100 an hour, you should outsource. This includes scheduling appointments, booking travel, managing your email inbox, doing online research, or even managing your social media. It seems like a luxury, but it's a calculated investment in buying back your most precious asset, your time. This forces you to become a manager, an architect of systems, rather than a doer of tasks. You must be able to give clear, precise instructions. But once you master this, you can build a business that truly runs itself, generating income while you sleep, travel, or work on your next project. Your muse becomes your golden goose, laying a golden egg of cash flow every month with minimal intervention from you. Finally, we reach the last step of the deal framework, L for liberation. This is the payoff. Once you have eliminated the unnecessary and automated your income, you are no longer tied to a single location. You have achieved mobility. For many people, the first taste of this isn't quitting their job outright, but negotiating a remote work arrangement. Ferriss provides a brilliant script for this. It's not about asking for a favor. It's about making a business case. You start by suggesting a trial period, say working from home 1 or 2 days a week. During those days, you use the principles of elimination to become hyper-productive. You deliver more results in your remote days than you do during your 3 days in the office. You quantify this. You show your boss with data that you are more valuable to the company when you are not in the office. After proving your increased productivity, you propose making the arrangement permanent. Then, you might suggest extending it further, perhaps proposing a longer-term remote work stint from another city or even another country, framed as a way to open new markets or simply as a well-deserved reward for your outstanding performance. The key is to make it a win-win. The company gets a more productive employee, and you get your freedom. But the ultimate goal of liberation is not just to work from home. It's to fundamentally change your life's timeline through those mini-retirements we talked about earlier. Instead of waiting until you're 65, you can take a 6-month sabbatical at 32 to learn to sail in the Caribbean. You can spend a year with your family living in Italy when your children are young. Your automated muse provides the income, allowing you to step off the treadmill for extended periods. From an economic and psychological standpoint, this approach has profound benefits. It diversifies your life experiences. It prevents burnout. It allows you to pursue passions when you are young and energetic enough to fully enjoy them. It recognizes that our desires and capabilities change over time. The person you are at 30 is different from the person you'll be at 70. Mini retirements allow you to live many different lives within one lifetime. Now, as an economist, I feel it's my duty to inject a dose of reality here. The 4-Hour Workweek is an inspiring and powerful philosophical guide, but it's not a magic pill. Implementing these ideas requires discipline, courage, and a fair bit of trial and error. One common critique is that the book is a product of survivorship bias. We hear about Tim Ferriss and others who succeeded, but we don't hear from the thousands who might have tried to build a muse and failed. Building a successful online business is not easy. The internet of today is far more crowded and competitive than it was in 2007. While the principles of finding a niche and automating are timeless, the specific tactics, the best advertising platforms, the most effective sales funnels are constantly changing. You can't just follow the book like a recipe. You have to adapt the principles to the current environment. Another important nuance is the human need for purpose and connection. Is a life of permanent leisure on a beach truly fulfilling? For some, maybe. But for many, work provides a sense of identity, a challenge to overcome, and a community of colleagues. The goal of the 4-Hour Workweek shouldn't be interpreted as a mandate to be lazy or to do nothing. The real goal is to achieve what economists call frictional freedom, the freedom to choose. It's about getting to a point where you are no longer forced to trade your time for money out of necessity. You have the freedom to work on projects you are passionate about, even if they don't pay well. You have the freedom to start a nonprofit, to write a novel, or to master a craft. The 4 hours of work might be spent maintaining your muse, but the rest of your time can be filled with meaningful work of a different kind. So when you strip it all down, what is the core message of the 4-hour workweek? It's a declaration of war on assumptions. It challenges you to question the default path. Why must we work from 9 to 5? Why must we work in an office? Why must we defer our dreams until we are old? It's a call to view your life not as a pre-written script, but as a blank page for you to design. It teaches you to think like an investor, but with your time as the primary capital. You look for asymmetric bets, opportunities where the potential upside in freedom and fulfillment far outweighs the downside risk. You use leverage, not just of money, but of technology and other people's time to achieve outsized results. You stop seeing a high salary as the ultimate prize and start seeing time and autonomy as the true currencies of wealth. It's a book that provides a practical toolkit for re-engineering your professional life to serve your personal life, not the other way around. Through definition, you clarify your destination. Through elimination, you clear the path of all non-essential clutter. Through automation, you build an engine to carry you forward. And through liberation, you finally enjoy the journey, not just the destination. It's a radical and, for many, a life-changing perspective on how to live.